After receiving numerous requests, I decided to create this video on how to pursue a career in technology consulting, specifically SAP. In this video, I will do my best to dispel myths and confusions about SAP consulting as a career path. This video is intended for everyone, but with a particular emphasis on those who want to begin their career in this field and those who are in the early stages of their career in the technology consulting field. Before I even started working on this video, I have watched several similar videos over the internet. Though many agreed with my point of view, one thing I've noticed is that these videos did not provide a complete picture, left some gray areas, and few were not so encouraging, or should I say discouraging, to begin a career in SAP. Hopefully, I will be able to answer all those and cover those aspects and clear all those myths in this video. So let's get right into it. Hey, this is Abhiram and welcome back to my channel. Before we begin the video, I would like to thank all of my subscribers and super members for their contributions and motivating me to post all these videos. Remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. You can also become a super member and can get access to this member exclusive content, coupons and videos, and can contribute to make many such videos. If you don't want to make a recurring contribution, click on the thanks button below this video to make a one-time donation, and that will help me make more videos like this. So before we look into SAP as a career option, let us go over some fundamental and important factors to consider when deciding on a career path. According to me, the first parameter to consider is if that field is interesting in you, if it motivates you, and if it gives you the drive to work. If you lack that zeal, you will not find long-term satisfaction in that job. To be very honest, even with enough zeal, job might not be interesting every day. There will always be lows and highs. However, if that job is of interest to you, then you will have that zeal to persevere even during the lows, which is essential for fulfilling the work life. Now, money is another important factor for all of us to choose a job. I enjoy playing video games personally, but I haven't found a way to make it as a job so that I can get enough money to support myself. So, I have chosen a different career path. So, unless until you are completely unconcerned about the salary, this becomes a really important factor that you need to consider when choosing a career path. The third one is your qualification. Now that you have found a job that is both interesting as well as well paying, it's time to determine whether you are qualified for it. We may not always be qualified for the job enough, but we might consider how feasible it is and how easy it is to increase our skill set so that we can meet that job requirement, and also how long does it take for us to achieve that kind of a skill set. While it might not be impossible to achieve anything, sometimes it might take more than enough time, which reduces our chances of getting that job. So, qualification and the ability to upgrade our skills is a very important factor. Now, the long term assurance is another important factor which I would like to refer, which is, it determines the job's stability. While it is not difficult to find good opportunities in today's world, it is important to consider that we have chosen a career path for which the future of that particular industry or that job role in terms of market demand and market growth are good enough, so that whenever we want to search for a new job or whenever we want to switch a company, it will become easier for us to find opportunities in the market with some decent packages. So the last important factor that I believe is really something that we need to take care while we are choosing a career path is the nature of the job. While this is mostly related to our first parameter, it focuses more on the day-to-day life once you begin your career in that field. So do some research, talk to people on some wonderful platforms like LinkedIn, try to get in touch with the people who are already in that particular job role and understand how a typical day in that job looks like, and get to a conclusion whether you will be comfortable if you're actually in that person's shoes. Now, I think this talk is sufficient for us to proceed with the next focus area, which is choosing technology consulting as our career path. Let me start by saying that not every ERP related job is consulting. A job requiring you to work on SAP Finance module, for example, is not always a consulting role. Consulting is then when you're actually interacting with the clients, attempting to understand their problems, creating new solutions, and putting them into action. Being in the background just by working on the technology will not always provide you the exposure that you will get in the actual consulting role. So, when applying for a job, Make sure you understand the job role and the exposure you will receive in that particular job role. Not all organizations might provide you this consulting exposure, particularly in the initial stages of career from low to medium job roles. But if you are applying to any of these big four consulting firms or an equivalent firm, then you can be confident that you will gain valuable consulting experience at all the levels. Now, this technology consulting more revolves around working on any technology platform, for example SAP. So it contains both the technological aspects that you might need to work on the technology, you need to have a good know-how on the technology, and at the same time it will also include the consulting exposures like communicating with the clients, having good presentation skills, etc. So why do we need consulting? With organizations continually developing and improving themselves every day, they are in a constant need to introduce new items and optimize their operations. This is when they want the services of a consultant who can comprehend the issue at hand and deliver an effective solution. So, consulting as a career is a highly sought after, and in the market, it is having a huge demand, and the demand can only increase in the future. So, this is one of the strong reasons why one needs to choose consulting as their career path. Now, let us try to take a step back and map those five job selection parameters or career selection parameters which we spoke earlier with the technology consulting as a career role and understand how one can make career path in this area. So the first one is our area of interest. To choose consulting, be it SAP or non-SAP, like normal consulting or technology consulting as your career, the first and the foremost quality required is the problem solving ability. And the next one is your good communication skills. The primary objective of any consultant is to take up a problem and provide solution to it. So that inquisitiveness to understand the problem, search for a solution and articulate it to the client is a bare minimum that is expected from a consultant. And then comes your technical expertise on that particular platform which you have chosen. Being an expert on a technology is necessary, but being able to convey that to the client is what actually a consultant does. And this is what is needed for a consultant to thrive in this consulting area. So, check out if your interests are matching with this requirement so that you can first decide whether or not you want consulting as a career path. So, take these excerpts which I have taken from various job descriptions. So, you can see here out of all these job descriptions which I have pasted here, the one common thing that we can observe is that the problem solving nature and the ability to interact with the client effectively and having excellent communication skills. So make sure that you are having a good interest in these areas. If you are still interested but you are lacking in these skills, then try something to improve these skills so that you can start making consulting as your career path. Now, the second parameter that we discussed is the return on investment or the earning potential. Consulting being a demanding career path, it is no doubt that the consultants are paid good enough. I try to get some average salary figures offered for different experience levels, but note that this is not the actual figures. This is just rough averages, and whatever figures are mentioning here is not the limit. Good expertise and proper planning can offer much higher packages. In consulting, the entry level salary can be starting from 4 to 6 lakhs per annum. That is for freshers who are coming from a bachelor's background. So people who are having this BE or BTech or even MTech for that matter as their background, even though MTech is a master's degree, but it is often in consulting treated as your bachelor's degree because of the varied nature of what we learned in your MTech and what we actually do in consulting. So if at all you are having a bachelor's degree, then you can demand a minimum of 4 to 6 lakhs per annum as a job if you are actually applying for consulting roles. Again, please pay attention that when I mean consulting roles, this is not some or every SAP job. This is the proper consulting roles where you will be applying in some big firms like big four consulting firms or any other top most or top tier Indian companies. Now, if you are aiming for further more top level organizations like BCG and all, then no doubt you can expect somewhere around 10 to 12 or even more than that as your starting package. If you are coming from a postgraduate background, then surely you can bag around 10 to 15 lakhs per annum as a fresher, considering that your degree is from a tier 1 college. Now, after around 3 to 4 years of experience as a consultant, then you can, when you are switching a job, you can expect a minimum of 15 to 18 lakhs per annum if you are in that consulting career path. Now, again, as I'm saying, these are not the exact figures, but these are the averages, which is a minimum sure shot that you can expect in this market. So keep in mind that whenever you are having your financial round of discussions, whenever you are discussing your salaries with the HR, these figures can give you a closer look of how the market dynamics are and how much one can safely demand. Now, if you're having around some 8 to 10 years of experience, the minimum that you can expect is around your 24 lakhs to somewhere around 30 lakhs. Again, all these figures I am just mentioning as your fixed pay. These I am not including any of these variable components, which are more of a gimmick where you do not or might not get the actual figures. But this is more of your fixed packages that you can expect if you are looking for a career as a consultant. Now, the third parameter what we discussed is the qualification. Before we dive into this qualification, let us be clear that there are two types of roles in consulting. One is the functional role and the other one is a technical role. For example, if we take SAP, we are having both the functional consultants as well as technical consultants. Functional consultants are the one who needs to have an understanding on the domain and interact with the client primarily, whereas technical consultants are the ones who does the coding part. So the minimum qualification also differs based on whether you're applying for a technical consultant or a functional consultant. The most sought after qualifications for a consultant role are your bachelor's degree, be it or BE or BTech, and much more advantageous is having a master's degree like MBA, or for example, if you're looking for consulting in financial domain, then it is good to have a background of MCA or CA or any other domain specific. Whereas if you're applying for a technical consultant, then bachelor's degree is very much sufficient, and even that is the right qualification to start career in coding. Along with BE or BTech, you can also have MTech, which will also give an edge if you are looking to become a technical consultant. Now, besides educational qualification, your experience also plays an important role. One with considerable experience can overcome any cons with respect to their educational background. But for freshers who want to start their career in consulting, the best way is via campus placements. As consulting is more focused on domain knowledge, it can be a bit challenging for freshers to enter in this area as a lateral joinee. However, many companies host job fairs very frequently looking for freshers for various functional roles also. So these entry points are really a good way you can leverage these to get a kickstart in consulting as a career path. Another way to start consulting career for people without domain experience or domain related educational background is via internal job movements, which are available within an organization. You might be probably working on something else which is not a consulting part. Then gradually you can try to get an opportunity by internal movement and you can move to your consulting role. But one thing that we need to note here is that this option of having internal job movements to get into consulting is better to do in early stages of your career so that you will not face a problem in the future, so that half of your experience is in different domain and half of your experience is in consulting. Now, people having domain based experience but no hands on the technology per se, especially if you are looking for technology consulting as a career path. For example, you want to become an SAP functional consultant, you are having a domain experience but you do not actually have experience on SAP as a software, then even they can also switch their careers to consulting. Just that they need to put an extra hard work, they need to learn the technology, they can learn it externally via any training institute or any other platform, practice well, get well versed with the platform, know the nuances, and then they can start looking for the jobs so that they can showcase both the domain as well as technical knowledge in the interviews to crack the jobs. In technology consulting, end users who are having experience to work on technology platforms, for example like SAP, can also use their experience and start their career in consulting. Although the salaries might differ in each of these cases at the beginning, but as I said earlier, planning your job changes at the right time will average out all these salary differences in the long run. Now, the next parameter is your job security. By job security, I'm not focusing on how long we can stay in one job or sticking to the same organization. Those days are long gone where we stick to one organization our entire career. Of course, it has its own advantages, but it is not what we see around. We often need to switch our companies, but at the right time to have a good growth in the career, both from your knowledge perspective and from a salary aspect also. Because if you stay longer in one organization, then there is a stagnancy which you will reach at certain point. You might not gain more knowledge, you might be used to whatever you have already learned, you might be very good at it, you might not get the exposure of different areas which are available in the market, and also your salary growth might be a little bit less. Now, consulting, as I said, as a career is of very high demand. So one need not fear of not getting opportunities over the time. Although in technology consulting, the market ups and downs might have a bit of impact, but that is really not worrisome. Now the last one is the nature of job, and this is really important. Now, if you're okay with all the above parameters which we discussed, then it is time for you to imagine yourselves in that dream job of yours and understand if a typical day in the life of that job can keep you happy and motivated. I've again tried to get some excerpts from various job descriptions for consultants. Now, common point that you see here is the flexibility in working and the ability to work under pressure. Consultant roles often involve time bound targets. You should accept a certain amount of pressure every day and should be able to achieve targets under pressure. While this differs from project to project and organization to organization, on an average, this is how it is. Now, being consultant, it is must to interact with the clients face to face. If the client is not in the same location as yours, you might often need to travel to the client location for regular discussions. This travel can be both short term or long term. There are many perks in traveling on duty, like staying at very good hotels, getting a handful of additional income on per diems, and making other perks like flight points, hotel stays, hotel points, etc. You can all redeem this later, and these are really useful in the long run. While this is on one side, the other side is you will get less time to spend at home with the family sometimes. And this is one of the drawback with travels. And consulting, it needs travel, and this is something that you also need to keep in mind. On an average, around 40 to 60% of a consultant's job role will be on travel. So one needs to assess how much flexible they are for this kind of a nature of job, and so that they can decide whether or not consulting job is suitable for them or not. And one more important feature of being a consultant is you will also require to be good at presentations. The higher you grow in the career path as a consultant, the less you'll be working on the technology, but more on your presentations and Excel worksheets. Doing thorough research, gathering points, preparing decks can be considered as a normal routine in a consultant's work life. You should be really ready for this one if you really want to become a consultant. Now, if you're targeting to be a technology consultant, then you should be ready to both technology as well as presentations. Overall, this is what it takes for you to become a consultant. Now that we saw what it takes to become a consultant, now let us understand why to choose ERP as a technology and that too SAP in technology consulting. Now companies, as I said, are expanding never like before. They need high-end softwares to manage their resources efficiently. Now ERP softwares are one solution for them where which can be used to manage effectively their day-to-day operations. SAP is a market leader in ERP segment from the known past, and surely it will retain that position for the considerable future also. Now, other than SAP, there are various prominent ERPs like Oracle, Microsoft Dynamics, Tally, etc. But SAP is one of the market leaders, and it is really having a good market out there. You can get a lot of jobs on SAP. So that is one main reason why you need to choose SAP as your career path. If at all you're focusing on technology consulting, then I would strongly recommend to choose SAP Technology Consulting as a career path, because it will help you in the long run. You will have a lot of opportunities, you will have a lot of jobs, and there are good salaries out there, and the demand is going to continue for the near future, or at least the foreseeable future. Now, also, SAP being a very expensive piece of technology, it is mostly used only by larger organizations, which means you will be paid good enough if you are in this area. Hope I was able to give some insights that could help you to frame your career as an SAP technology consultant. Drop your questions in the comments and I will be really happy to answer. See you in the next video, and until then, take care.